experience and expertise to serve our society's leadership. On that note, thank you very much. I was still pregnant with a lot, but it's fine, Mr. Chair.
No, I can
Thank you
see,
so
I
much.
can see. My apology. I can see. Next one, I think the gentleman next to you, yeah, that's correct.
Thank you so much, Chair. My name is Opa Shumeni. I'm the Gauteng Civil Society Chairperson under the AIDS Council. I don't want to dilly-dallying in terms of the sustainability. We are having a partnership with government as a civil society of Gauteng. I'm happy that the PS of the ANC is here, because while we are busy building the civil society, your deployees in the government, they are busy destroying that partnership. It's unfortunately now, as we speak, social development is in the motion to try to destroy the organizations, to cut the budget with the 65%. I hope, Comrade Teacher, you are listening. To cut the budget with the 60%, 65%. If you cut the budget with the 65%, meaning you are saying you are now creating the poverty in the province, because our economy is based on those NGOs. So I'm making a plea, because now we are talking about the sustainability. How are we going to sustain our partnership with the ANC while their deployees are busy destroying the civil society? So that's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I just remind you, ladies and gentlemen, a minute and a half can look like it's too small, but it's not if your focus is on what needs to be done. If you stand up and say there are 5 things that must be done and you tabulate them, it's easy to conclude them within that time. So I'm going to beg for your indulgence, because I can see there's a huge interest and time is not on our side. You can proceed.
Thank you very much, Comrade Former Nopala. My name is Monwabi Sisidwel Mbasa from an organization called Treatment Action Campaign, which is part of PLHIV sector, representing 8.5 million people living with HIV. I will get straight to the point. Comrade Tumsen, I'm sure you'll agree with me that ANC has the best policies and resolutions. However, the problem has been on the implementation side. So now the challenge that I want to pose to you is to say, to what degree have you committed yourselves as a newly elected leadership to accelerate the aspect of implementation? Now to the President, Comrade President, to what degree have you gone in terms of implementing the Network Social Compact? Because I could see that we are busy dilly-dallying, Kokil. And then what needs to happen now? ANC needs to close the vacuum between itself, the government it leads, the civil society, to prefigure a milieu that will be of a harmony and common prosperity. Further to that, the movement should strengthen its all accountability mechanism at all levels, even at the branch level. Comrade President, how far are we when it comes to issues of NHI? Because it has been protracted for far too long now. And I want to check in terms of its full implementation to say, are we at the epoch today to say we can measure the progress that has been made thus far? In conclusion, Comrade Former Nopala,
yes.
the perennial acute shortage of staff in the public healthcare system, it's a crisis. So I would like to appeal to the President to please give this problem your apex priority.
Thank you.
People are dying out there.
Thank you a lot. Thank you. And you give to the lady there with, yeah, that one, yes.
Thank you very much, Comrade Mdumiseni. My name is Boitumelo Tage. I am from the South African Youth Council in the Tshwane region as the regional coordinator. And mine is very simple and quick. Comrade Mdumiseni, Mr. President, everybody that is here from civil society. Number one, we're very tired as young people of being told that we're going to get a seat at the table and we don't get it. I think that the first solution that we need to have is to allow young people to be capacitated, because to be told that we're not educated is very much incorrect. Secondly to that, within civil society, a solution that we need is to implement all the solutions that we have that we discuss in programs like these, and then start meeting like this more often to discuss progress made, so that we can see where we've made progress and where we have not made progress, as opposed to meeting like this to consistently discuss issues that we are all aware of. Because I think this is becoming something that happens year in, year out, and we don't see any progress being made on the ground. And lastly, more importantly, there's a lady from Black Women Caucus, who mentioned funding the fight. It's very important that we fund the fights, because we cannot help people without money. We need resources on the ground. We need to be able to go into the communities and help these people. And without the funding, we're unable to reach the people that we're supposed to be helping. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we're done in this row. So can I get hands from this row? Let me start. I will start from the front. It will be 1, 2, 3, 4 in this table, 5, 6, 7, 8. The gentleman with the red tie, you are number 9. Next to you is number 10. You are number 11 with a Youth League logo. Number 12 behind you, number 13 standing, number 14 with a cap, number 15 with a hair, the lady there, and then number 16 sitting down, yes. Can we take those hands for now? Yeah.
Good afternoon.
The TSG has just made me aware that there's also been a circulated document that you can use to make some of the additions that you would have not had an opportunity to include. So let's go. You have a minute and a half at most.
Thank you.
A minute.
Greetings to the President and the whole House. All the protocols are observed. And Minika Malam Ngutabile from a women's sector, Gauteng AIDS Council. And I'm from Mission Society Care for the infected and affected with HIV and AIDS, and also from PWMSA. What I want to touch, it's about President, about the load shedding. It's an issue, especially in a women's sector, because we are the people who are cooking, who are buying food and putting that refrigerator. When you go back, all things are rotten, they are oozing. And secondly, the other thing that I want you to look into is that load shedding, I was part and parcel of being hijacked twice with guns. One, load shedding when I was driving, coming from the project and to home, and then people that were following me, they hijacked me, took the car. Fortunately, God protected me. And secondly, I was here in Resik Street.
Please move towards closure, Mama. Towards closure.
They also took the phones and all that. The other thing that I want you to remember, ANC had 2/3 majority. We were not supposed to talk about the land, because by then, 2/3 majority, we were, as churches, we were just going to be given land.
Thank you.
And we were going to be given all that.
Thank you.
Global Fund, sorry, in my last point. Global Fund and Phaser, they also dictate terms in our country, giving us resources, put that carrot that they spoke about, and we don't see what is happening. You need to peruse and look into that. Civil society need to get more budget. Thank you.
Can we go to number 2?
More budget for civil society.
Number 2.
Sanbonani.
Yebo.
My name is Sandi Lehlaisi, and I'm the chairperson for the Scientology Volunteer Ministers, which is one of the world's largest community development and disaster response organizations in the world. So what we focus on is empowerment of communities, starting with soft skills, because I believe that if you are going to empower somebody, you have to change the mindset. Throwing resources and money at that person is not going to solve the problem. So we offer free skills development that is practical, applicable in any field in the country, and we offer it for free. And as the Scientology volunteer ministers, I'm here to say, we are opening ourselves and our resources to working with the civil society and working together in empowering communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was less than a minute. Number 3.
Morning, everybody. Mr. President, protocol.
Can you please raise your voice, Mama?
Okay, my name is Poppy Tubazana from Tlakeng, Randfontein. Okay, thank you. Protocol observer. Now, from PWMSA, my concern is the municipality. Mr. President, please, the representative of the municipalities, the service delivery, please, Mr. President, you can straighten your hand that the municipalities can look after the people with the service delivery, because on the ground, the people, they think the ANC they don't do anything, and the people they are doing, they are paying, and the ANC, they are doing their work. Only the people, the representative of the ANC, they don't come to the people to talk to the people. You know, there is this problem of electricity, but the service delivery, when you engage with people, they understand. I don't think they will do anything wrong. Another thing I want to say, thank you to the ladies that they're doing GPV, the brigades. Mr. President, we like to applaud you with what you take on the issue with the summit of GPV. They are really doing the great job.
Thank you. Number 3.
Sanbonan, igama lami ngu-Pastor Phumzile Mdluli. I'm from Ikhaya leZayoni, which is led by Archbishop Professor M.M. Shabalala. Okwami kuncane kakhulu. Mr. President, ngiyakubingelela siyabonga to engage us like this. I would like to see more of this. Kungabi ama talk show. We want this to progress, siyabonga. And as Ikhaya leZayoni, we managed to cover about 9 provinces in South Africa. We want ukusebenza nabantu. Enye into ebalulekile, educate people, ANC. Mam Nomvula, you are once engaging us. Educate people about ukuvota. The ANC is a leading party. There's no other organization esiyaziyo ngaphandle ko-ANC, but our people are angry because of the ANC. The ANC is siyekelele. Go back to the people, talk to us. As I'm speaking, ukansela wami Ward 7 has resigned. Ukhala nge-service delivery, angayitholi from support from the ANC government. She's complaining about that. Please, bantu baka ANC, siyanicela, siyanithanda. Go back to us, come back to us. Our youth, bafundiseni abantwana bethu. Nalento ka 18 to 35 is not working. We as abogogo, we are taking care of labantwana laba. Please, Mr. President, abolish that.
Thank you very
Sifakeni
much,
somewhere
Mruti.
nathi, sisebenzeni, siyabonga.
Thank you. The next one is number, that table now.
Greetings to you, President, the House at large, and allow me to say all protocols observed. I like the saying that a healthy economy requires a healthy nation, but we have a problem in our country. Mr. President, we still have a shortage, a high shortage of nurses. Mr. President, you know, in the past, there was this beautiful way whereby you find that nurses are trained. We used to have nurses on training coming about 3 to 4 times a year. But right now, we have just one intake of nurses. Thus, we're having a shortage of staff, a shortage of human resources. And this leads to what? This leads to unhealthy
Please
nation.
move towards closure, Mama.
And also, this leads to the unhealthy human resources themselves, in the sense that they are overworked. Another thing that I want to highlight is that the community health workers who are not employed by the government itself. Why are we not having healthcare workers? We used to have the pink ladies. They were the very same community health workers employed by the government. How do we ensure that our young women and men are economically empowered or economically active? If
Please,
they
please
have-
close,
having
please
been-
close, Mama. Please
Yes,
close.
another thing, we have gender-based violence skyrocketing. We see right now, I'm from the West Rand in Kagiso. We see a lot of our women being abused, but we do not have shelters, sufficient shelters. I want to reiterate what the other gentleman was saying.
That is your very last point, Mama. Very last point,
What
very last
that
point.
gentleman was saying is very true. Our social development personnel, they are destroying the community,
Thanks,
civil society organizations.
Thanks a lot,
In the
ma'am.
sense that
Thanks a lot. Sorry about that, Ma'am. Can we move to, my apology, I know the time is not enough. We need more time, but yeah, let's move to the next one, yes?
All right, thank you so much.
And please fill in the forms as well. Yes, you can proceed, my sister.
All right, thank you so much once again for this opportunity. My name is Kumuitsi Lemuela from Kahoyabana Foundation. Mr. President, mine is just to appeal to what it is that you are saying, to say, how is it that we can move the future forward? Mine is to ask for one thing, to say, please, Mr. President, there's so much that's already being done by government. There's so much resources that are already put by government, including funding, which is already towards civil society organizations. But the one challenge that we tend to have is the people that are in positions that would not allow for us to maximize on the resources that are already availed by government. This includes financial resources, this includes assets that are already in our communities, that if we actually had people in positions, the technocrats in positions that can actually listen to us, civil society, on the ideas, on the programs that we have, that we can be able to move our communities forward. We are the ones that are at the ground level. We know the needs, and therefore we can actually offer the solutions to what it is that we need. So we just need people that are in positions that are going to be able to listen to what it is that we can say, how we can better our communities.
And your last one, very last.
Second last one. So that actually calls for integration of programs across the different departments, for example. But the other thing that I'd just like to bring forward now, we've been sitting on a table of people that have got disabilities or barriers, but you've spoken or you've asked for hands to be raised, but we've got people here that were blind, and therefore they could not be recognized, and I believe maybe that's why they're not here. So just to say, please, can we just have that inclusivity in terms of disabilities? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for that. Thanks for that advice. Thanks a lot. Where are we? The gentleman with the red tie. That's where we are. Your minute has started, sir.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Machini Mutloung. I'm the Deputy President of the National Association of Democratic Lawyers. I'm with my fellow comrades here. Mine is to really start from the beginning in terms of the relationship between NADEL and the African National Congress. That in 1985, when Mass Democratic Movement created this relationship, in the main, we had to try and ensure that we prepare for the new order. Now, one picks up a lacuna from that period into the current situation where there is lack of interaction between Nadel and the ruling party. It's something that we need to look into. But coming to the engagement today, I sincerely hope that really this is not just a hit and run, but we have received an assurance that there's going to be an ongoing discussions and bilaterals to some extent. But I urge that as we move forward, that we should have a more focused agenda so that we are able to contribute meaningfully and identify crisp issues that are really burning within our space. We have a situation here where
Please come to the closer, my learned friend.
Implementation is not a problem per se. What I view as a problem or a main challenge is monitoring and evaluation. In my view, when you talk monitoring and evaluation, this is an accountability mechanism. And for us to effectively and efficiently deal with monitoring of any program of government, we need to ensure that there is incessant progress and feedback to civil society.
Thanks.
And there is also evaluation, and evaluation in this instance should include, looking into efficiency of whatever program that has been implemented, including, assessing the inputs and outputs of programs.
Thanks a lot. The gentleman next to you, yes. The one who's next, your minute has started.
Okay, thank you. And greetings to the President and to all. I'm Hlahla Lekalakala. I'm part of civil society. I'm from Limpopo. Mine is a pledge, or not a pledge, a plea actually, to say we know we are having organization at the ground, but when funds comes, those organizations are not given first priority. Please, let us take money where it is necessary to. But secondly, to our Honorable President, when we do campaigns, let us stop working in silos. Let us find a way of working together. Thank you.
Thank you, thanks a lot. The next one was the youth cap logo. Oh, you can start and then go to him because you were one after the other.
Thank you very much, Program Director. My name is Matthew Mbonzo from the Cooperative Apex, and greetings to the President. We would like to emphasize with the President to take cooperatives very seriously, because we believe cooperatives, better understood, have got a potential, an untapped potential to create a lot of jobs. But when you look within the officials of all government departments, cooperatives are not taken seriously. We would like to impress upon the President and plead to the President that this issue must be taken very, very seriously. To establish worker cooperatives with the Department of Labor, consumer cooperatives, services cooperatives, and all types of cooperatives. This got a very big untapped potential to create jobs and also assist our government. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary General of the ANC. One, President, remember our opportunity as cooperatives. Please support cooperatives. When you support cooperatives, you create a number of jobs. Cooperatives are self-help, self-reliance, self-sustainability. They're not beggars, they're not puppets. So they live on their own. Please give us an opportunity to support us. The number one. Number two, chairperson of the elections. Let's take this process of engagement with civil society on the ground. Chairperson of the provinces, they must do so. District chairperson must do so, branches must do so. We start to campaign. President, I'm worried about the trucks that are going to N4, going to Mozambique. That is a daylight robbery. That is sabotage and subversion. In terms, we need to see and make sure that we stop that.
As you move towards the closure,
It's not yet a minute. Civil society, one, I heard someone says they are not organized. Where's Josopu and Tulanchifutu? Civil society in this country are organized in Nedlek. And then doors are open for those who want to come and join at the national level. Josopu is here, Tulanchifutu is here, that's the civil society.
yeah, please
And then
make your very last one now.
Oh, we must meet Kotali. And then, President, we are hosting the BRICS cooperative leaders this year. We have got SADC. Please support us. Thank you very much.
Can you come back to the Youth League logo? Yes.
No, thanks very much, Program Director. My name is Musa Shabangu from the Musa Shabangu Foundation and also the chairperson of the ANC Youth League in Chongomuzi branch in Orange Farm. Well, our 2 cent inputs as the Musa Shabangu Foundation, the future would want is a future whereby the ANC understand that education is the new AK-47. And then secondly to that is that the future that we want is a future, President, that is a people-driven, the future that the economy of this country is people-driven. So that would be our submission to this particular engagement. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks a lot. And then the gentleman, yeah, the one who's standing up.
Thank you very much. My name is Mojalefa Mokakabi. I represent a company called Boto Group. I'm a Soweto-born entrepreneur, and I can give my history if needed, but not today. So our participation and actually contribution towards this, it's more solution-based and more than anything. And firstly, I'd like to say to the President and the leadership and to even Mr. Denny Jordan being here, we predominantly work with the arts. We acknowledge that the arts play a role in every sector. And when we speak of education, we are a nation that understands that from every serious thing we make fun and make songs and rhythms from that. It's part of education, it's part of a teaching way. So what we are saying is that we need to get the arts to be participating in all the sectors here, civil society, government, and business, because I can safely show most of you here how the arts are participating, but not acknowledge. I mean, there are people with cameras here, graphics, and so forth. That's the first one. And the last one...
the last one now.
Yeah, I'm at the last one. Don't worry, Chairman.
All right.
The last one is straight to the point that we need collaboration with every aspect of business and society to ensure that in order for us to teach about certain things like GBV, to teach about voter education, we need to have these door-to-door engagements using creative ways and creative arts to impact on our economies and communities. It will be easier for a 2 or 3 year old to understand when Tates Mangmang sings a song that teaches them on how to check themselves or whether they are suffering from breast cancer or anything like that, as compared to them being put inside a room and being dictated to instead of being educated from that. So that's just that. But we'll send extensive proposals to the offices that are necessary here and shall be taken from there on. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. The next 2 years.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Isabel Fry, and I'm from the Social Policy Institute, also from the Jeanette Schoen branch of the ANC and Community Constituency at NEDLAC. The solution that I propose is that the ANC implement the resolution of continuing the 350 Rand grant and the implementation of the Universal Basic Income Grant. Not only is it an ANC resolution, but it's also provided for in the Constitution. We know that there are 12.4 million unemployed adults in South Africa. We know that South Africa is an upper middle income country. Under apartheid, companies paid a 50% corporate tax rate. That's now dropped to 26%, which means that there is a huge amount of tax capacity that can be raised in order to pay for something which would enable everybody to live with dignity. Our organization has done research with the assistance of Duma Kubule. We've shown how it's affordable. And we would like to see the ruling party rule, and we would like to see the ANC manifesto have a promise of an immediately realizable, universal, decent basic income grant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The lady behind you.
Okay. Thanks, Committee Chair. Few things that are to straight to the point, the future we want. One, Chair, we think that as ANC, we need to implement all the decisions that we're taking. One, to eradicate the poverty and the unemployment to the young people and women. It's better us to go back to the bargaining council. We know that it's a pity because because there's a law that we had before in the bargaining council that says that all the permanent posts that are vacant, if they're interns or people that are temporal in all departments, those posts, those people must be taken to be observed permanently in those posts. Let us go back and resuscitate that decision. Number two, we appreciate the program that the president has brought to us of the interns in all departments. However, we are saying that, Comrade President, after 24 months, they tend to leave the department. How about that, those that are already interns and able to consolidate that, we take a certain number, bit by bit, and make them to be employable.
Please move towards conclusion.
You observe. The last one, the issue when you go to the DTM, let's make sure that we implement the DTM. There are some CDWs that are needed in our communities who are short of CDWs. Mawuza gqiba ke emhlalo ngaphambili besicela ke Comrade President nawo mhlalo ngaphambili ne-ANC leadership. In Gauteng resources are meant for Gauteng resources in all the programs, my comrades.
Thank you, thank you. I think I'm done now with this role. Now, the circumstances are forcing me to change the approach a little bit. I'm now going to take one hand per table. And I will have to apologize in advance for those who will be excluded. And secondly, I will not take any hand in the table where the president is sitting. Where the president is sitting, they are going to write to the president there. So I'm going to start at the back. The first hand would be the gentleman on the suit. The second hand is the table in front of you, the lady there. Yes. Yes, you. And then the third hand would be the gentleman standing in the white top. The fourth one is the lady here in, yes. You, yes. Yeah, yes. And then number 5, I need one hand in this table. Can you negotiate? I need one hand. Can you start there with number 1? I'll take one hand in, so let me take you. All right.
Amandla, ukhumalo lo.
Yaphela iminute mtungu.
Ukhumalo lo, kumbumba Business Association. President ngambhaleli open letter. Ngi-addressa i-issue ye-infrastructure yase South Africa. Ye-construction mafias. Yokustojwa kama-project. Ngamchazela ngathi, ngicela ukuthi sibe ne-one-on-one discussion. Sizokwazi ukuqeda loyo msindo wama-construction mafias. Nabafowethu abashaya ama-heist, sizokwazi ukuqeda loyo msindo wama-heist. Namadoda nawabiza ngama-looters, sizokwazi ukuqeda leso simo leso. So that kube ne-stability e-South Africa. Kune-vacuum ekhona. Singama-president e-groundini, lenzansi e-groundini. Kune-vacuum between the national office and the ground. The reason why I'm saying this, Millennium Development Goals has caused a serious problem in South Africa. When they were doing a transition to sustainable development goals, it was an issue because all the foreign nations, they moved to become solutionists like South Africa. The infrastructure yonke.
Mdungo, as you move towards the closure on your proposal, the first proposal is the one-on-one with the president. Can you go to the next one?
The next proposal, can we really identify civil society organizations as a solution? Kuma problems won't happen. Don't exclude civil society organizations. Because when they come into your offices, nita sebenzi nama forum. But everything it starts with the United Nations, with Economic Forum. So why not identify Lawa as a grounding?
Let's give the The lady, yes, that one who's standing is her. Please go ahead, my sister.
Good morning. My name is Jane Chikwado from Black Woman Caucus. Forward with woman emancipation, forward. Forward with woman emancipation, forward. What is the future that we want? We want service
Even
delivery.
that forward is within that minute.
Yes.
Yes.
What is the future that we want? We want, Mr. President, we humbly want service delivery. Harnali service delivery, irnali mabono mostranting. The rate of gender-based violence and femicide iya ko tlase. Basadi ba bolaiwa because ga gona motlakase. Poverty is another challenge, Abasadi. So as Black Woman Caucus, we've taken up on ourselves for the outreach programs, the awareness, so African National Congress, the resources, so that Basadi Komikuku understand in our own language what is gender-based violence and femicide. Amanda Guleondao. One another point that I want to emphasize, Mr. President. Rebereka Basadi DSG. Rebereka Kumikuku where is so dangerous. Mara visibility amaponisa hariboni. Rikupa visibility SAPS hor. Haridira mesebetsi ya rona. Iriba mapolisa abeteng.
Thanks, Mama. Thanks.
Our last point is.
It's Kavili, last one.
The last point is, can the future that we want, our own language. Amanda!
Thank you. In front of you, there's a gentleman. Yeah, he has a mic already. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. All protocol observed. I'm Zola Dodo, the chairperson of Solim Sane Foundation. As you know, Mr. President, that Umkulu is a 1913 Land Act warrior. So, Mr. President, we would like to strongly engage with you in the issue of land. Because without land, we are nothing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The lady in front of you. No. In front of you. That one, yes. Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Zuleika Patel. I am an activist and author, and I'm the founder of a non-profit company called Dare to Change. My question is a genuine question directly to you, Mr. President. I unfortunately have not heard anyone speak on basic education, and I'd like to highlight that basic education is not only a cornerstone which is important in our society, but we must see it as a tool, an emancipation tool. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, Mr. President, unfortunately we cannot be 29 years into democracy and we still last week had a child die because they fell into a pit toilet. I would like to ask you and present forward an assignment to take on education and make that a priority in your government and in your time as president, to make that a priority, to meet the infrastructural needs in what the apartheid system was successful in doing, in breaking down education in black communities, in making schools in black communities where these are schools where you will not have someone who can become a president come out because the infrastructure does not meet that.
Please make your concluding point.
I'm closing just now, please, sorry. We cannot continue to have schools not meet the infrastructural needs of children in rural areas and in townships. And I'd like to kindly ask that you make education a priority and ensure that education is going to be empowering for every child in this country. And we furthermore cannot continue to have schools, your former white-only schools, continue to be these circles where culture, white supremacist ideologies are upheld.
Thank you
so
very
I'd like to request that you make education your priority.
Thanks. Bring the mic forward to the lady here with a red top. Yes, you.
I'll just get straight to the point to Advocate Tando and the President. Thank you, sir. What I want to mention is this diversity, cultural and inclusion. So please, we are very diverse as a South African country. We've got women with disabilities, we've got LGBTQI, So what I would want, when you speak especially in terms of gender-based violence against women, can we also make sure that we put a stamp firm on accommodating the male counterpart? Because to your point with apartheid, apartheid did not only just include women, but exclude women, but it included men that they must be at the forefront to go and provide for their families. So if you look at the wellness and the state of their mind, they need counseling. They went through a very traumatic experience, being there as veterans, seeing dead bodies, eating things that we cannot eat. So they are very subconsciously disturbed. So we need also to include them, Mr. President, because when you look, we are so much focusing on the women's side,
As
but
you
we are leaving
conclude.
the men behind. So can we just learn to pull forward for both genders?
Thank you
so
very
that
much.
when the healing happens, this part, and we also promote the other end. Thank
Thank you very
sir.
much. Now let me move this side. Can I take the hand here from this table? I won't take the panelists, I'll exclude them. Let me take the gentleman here. You are three, can't you negotiate and get one hand? So you are number one, you would be number two. You, yes. And then number three is the gentleman with a blue t-shirt. Number four, a black t-shirt. Number five, the one who's standing. So let me take those ones in this row. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Mine is not long. My advice is just to say, it's a high time that ANC must go back to people and partners. Who has
Can we please lower the noise so that we can hear each other? You can proceed. sir.
My advice is to say to ANC, go back to all partners. Let's go back and work on the ground. You can see now, Highness, I just want to swallow us. We don't know what is going to happen in 2024. We need now to shake hands, come to organization like before. I'm one of the old partner with ANC from maybe 1964. So as NAFCOC, we believe that ANC, you have lost us or we have lost you. I don't know what is happening. Can we come together and make sure that now we build in the nation and
Thank
have
you.
that relation? Because otherwise, things are tough. Just now, I believe that next week, some people said close businesses. We can't close our businesses and then wait for jokes. It's high time that we must be together.
Thanks a lot. The lady there, yes, the one with the hand up.
Good day, everyone, and Mr. President. My name is Andy from Pure Campaign. I'm the chairperson of the campaign, and I'm also a board member of Ituseng Center for People Living with Disabilities. I'm just going to be brief. I just wanted to stress that please also take note that people with disabilities also need assistance from government. They are a value in society, and please may you work hard in assisting them. And secondly, we need to have occupational therapists employed in schools and in communities to assist the social ills that we're facing today, such as substance abuse and all sorts of depressions that are happening. I'm a psychologist by profession, and I know exactly what I'm dealing with. Thank you.
Thanks. Because you were very short, let me give this lady there next to you, and then we will go to the gentleman with the blue top. If you are also half a minute, it allows more time.
I'll be very short.
Yes,
so,
please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lindelwa from Lepindi Business Solutions. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. President and to everybody in the room. I just wanted to bring in the use of digital technology, you know, in the solving of the challenges that we face within civil society. A good example for in the use of digital technology to solve a problem is using technology to combat community safety. I mean, we've seen how effective and efficient technology is. We've seen it work in other countries, and I think that's something that we can also use within our country to combat some of the challenges that we're facing. And secondly, to invest more in skills development in our communities, particularly in the area of digital technology. What this will do is that it will keep our youth occupied. It will also create communities with people that can solve, that can
Yes,
further
you
solve problems
conclude.
using digital technology. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman with a blue top, yes, is next. My brother, if you take half a minute, or you are giving your time to her.
Hi, no.
All right.
The gentleman here is exercising what we call women empowerment, so he's passing on the mic to me. Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody else, and I'd like to acknowledge the president. My name is Buitumelo Muhube. I'm from an association called BANA. We represent the black-owned agencies within the communication sector. I think ours is more of a comment rather than a solution. So we echo on something that was said by the guy from BBC, Abuti Gregory, in terms of we need to use legislation just to fast-track some of the proposed programs. That's one. I think we want a future that's also quite inclusive. I think everybody in this room at the moment comes from either a state-owned entity or they come from a government. We are actually quite fortunate that we are representing the private sector. And last but not least, am I still within my minute?
You lost it now.
I lost it. I lost it. Did I cover everything
It's
else?
okay. It's okay.
I'll come back to it. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, that gentleman there.
Dumelang. All protocols reserved. Mr. President, our plea is very simple. I'm Frederick Mabitsela from the Lady of Peace Community Foundation. And this plea also goes out to the concessionaire. As we are gathered here, I haven't heard any messaging around peace. Let us take heed from the struggle that we had to go through apartheid. We fought for freedom and kept yelling for freedom. But if we keep fighting and keep yelling apartheid, apartheid, we wouldn't have had freedom that we have today. We yelled and said, asina valo. But instead, we're just leading ourselves into anarchy by fighting and showing that we are courageous. But let us start to talk about peace and talk about having peaceful infrastructure. It cannot be peaceful communications, it cannot be peaceful communities if we are not building peaceful infrastructure for our people. Our people cannot live in conditions where they're economically compressed and economically...
As you move towards the conclusion.
Yes, so moving towards the conclusion. Sorry, man, I've only spent 15 seconds. Let's get to 30 seconds, then I'll say something solid. But what I want to press on is what the Peace Corner Community Club has been establishing and seeing in our schools. What has been raised about school infrastructure is true. School infrastructure is not allowing our students to thrive in those conditions. But secondly, what needs to be introduced is peace building as mechanisms to build cohesive society. Peace building as mechanisms for us to also teach our students to not have violence. Just the week that we came from, just 1 second, the week that we came from, a child died because of bullying in the schools. Clearly, our violence has now proceeded beyond just gender-based violence, but violence that's getting into our schools and growing with our children.
Thanks a lot. The last one in that row is the gentleman standing there. Then we'll move to the last row and then come
Thank
to...
you, Baba. All protocols observed. Gusiya Gandesi from the Eastern Cape in OR Tambo. Slal, we are confused so far because here is the civil society engagement, but our time was used by your officials. So it simply means, as the ANC, you are not engaging at the local level these issues that you are supposed to discuss here. So next time we humbly request, if it's a civil society engagement, it must be so. Only the civil society to engage with the president, not the officials of the ANC, not the members of the ANC. Another issue is that siyambonga usisi lo ukhulumela amadoda, because that's where we are really struggling. The programs are there, but they are only in favor of women. So it's a good thing that in whatever that is going to happen, it will be in line to address the issues. Thank you, Baba.
Thank you very much. Can I move to the last row? And then you are alone in this, I will take you, you are number 1. I've already taken this gentleman as number 1. My sister, you're number 2. You are in the same table. Number 3, Baba at the back, yeah, you're number 3, we were in a yes. Number 4, a black suit there, you're number 4. Yes, they are pointing to you. You are number 5 is at the back. You are all in one table. So let me take the last one is number 5. Let's see how we go with those last 5 hands. And then if somebody does well in the minute, I will come back to your table there. Yes. If somebody does very well in their minute, so can I start with you?
Thank you very much. My name.
If you can take half a minute, I can allocate that half a minute there.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Program Director, and greetings to the President and government officials. Mine is very short. I'm the President of the South African National Taxi Council, Santaco, and I'm raising on the point of the speedy implementation of the National Taxi Lekgotla resolutions, President. I think we are not moving on that platform. We request that these resolutions must be implemented as soon as possible because they will help us to achieve challenges that are facing the taxi industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very exemplary with time. It allows me then to use that minute. Okay, yes, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to the President and all protocol observed. My name is Joy Mbewana from the Cultural and the Creative Industries Federation of South Africa, which is an umbrella body for all the cultural and the creative industry organizations and formations. President, I just want to take you back to the 54th Congress resolution of the African National Congress, where they talk about social transformation, 2.4, where they say the ANC should bring back the ANC Cultural Desk with the representation of the Creative and Cultural Industry Federation of South Africa and have cultural ambassador to pursue cultural diplomacy. It's the ANC Cultural Desk need to develop a cultural diplomacy document. A cultural and a creative industry transformation and performance charter need to be introduced. The ANC should ensure that they are continuously building a national monument to commemorate and remember our rich history and heritage.
Closure, remember
As I move towards closure, I think there's a lot that we need to discuss with the President. As a creative industry, we feel we need to have a one-on-one engagement as a sector with the President. So to look at our issues, everybody knows how the industry has been affected by COVID, and AMA Creative have made so many demonstrations, President. You have seen them picketing, you have seen them staging sit-in, we have seen them bevala freeway bekhala bethi President islambile. Everybody has seen ama artists committing suicide. It certainly means ukuthi there is a serious attention needed by the end. My last submission is that on the issue of GBV, the creative industry can play a major role in educating and raising the awareness on and if we're really serious about national building and social cohesion, the NDP suggests that we can only be able to achieve that through festivals, exhibitions, and symposiums. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the gentleman there. Yes, that gentleman, the gentleman who's standing there, yeah.
Mr. President, good afternoon. In Shikani, I'm standing here as a FBO. As a FBO, we have a problem with the church site, the permanent ones. Our church don't have water and sanitations. So, Mr. President, can you please assist us? Some of our churches, they have 20 years or more than 20 years. They're under lease. Until when? I thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we move on to the, yes?
Mr. President Tobela. Mr. President, I also want to support my friend here. Araskabara lebalang kereke. ANC ebela kwa kerekeng. 26 years now in freedom. Atusoboni kereke iwane enalingi a documenting this is my land. Let's kabala relasha, we are here. We love ANC, we are ANC.
Thank you. Can I add one hand in that table because it's less than a minute? Yes, one hand, then the last hand at the
Thank you so much, Program Director. My name is Keegan Everson, and greetings to Mr. President and the House at large. The future that we want, with this being the year of decisive action to advance the people's interest and renew our movement, my question is, who is eligible to this statement, and how do we reach the pinnacle point of inclusivity of all races, genders in society? Now, Mr. President, I think it is paramount that you enforce the principles of the African National Congress, more especially when it comes to non-sexist and a non-racial organization. Secondly, and in conclusion, it is Setswana Chabedi who has touched on this point, and that is cadre protection, which is an issue. Now, this issue should be dealt with decisively, especially on local level, and this is especially where the ward councillors and the ward committees are taken into consideration. It is important that they are held accountable by the party, because if they do not perform their duties, it is service delivery that lacks, and this is what frustrates communities. We are on the ground and we need them to be, if they are not performing, they need to be recused because they are tarnishing the name of the organization, and they need to be replaced with somebody that is going to uphold and renew the values of the ANC.
Thank you. The last one at the back there.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name, I'm Chief Siposezwe Mahlangu, representing Contralesa. Mr. President, as Contralesa, we do have a platform that where we discuss with you and the NEC in many issues. But here, as Contralesa, we want to submit, Mr. President, that the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development is not assisting in the rural areas. So we are requesting, Mr. President, that in the rural areas, every department must have a sector that will deal with the issues of the rural areas. Mr. President, we believe by doing that, you will be offloading all the challenges that you are faced with in the urban areas. Because more people that are coming in the urban areas are coming in the urban areas because in the rural areas, there are no opportunities, Mr. President. So please, we are requesting your NEC and the President to focus more in developing the rural areas where traditional leaders are leading. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I fully understand that we have not done justice to the engagement. I accept that wholeheartedly on behalf of the National Executive Committee. And that is because it's our first engagement. Now, what I would like to suggest we do, we have made a commitment and we'll live up to that commitment for a follow-up engagement, which will be with each and every sector on one hand, but with all of us as well, giving a feedback to one another. I just want us to conclude by taking only one comment, which should be done by the President of the TAC Association of South Africa. And for those of you who know I come from Durban, I have to drive home when we finish here. And you know what does that mean if we don't allow the President of TAC Association to say something? Because I must go to Moy River to go home. So can I allow Mary Party to say something as the President of the TAC Association? Then after that, when she finishes, I'm handing over to the DSG for my own traveling home.
Program Director, thank you very much. The President of the ANC, all leaders in different sectors, thank you very much for inviting the Truckers Association of South Africa. My name is Mary Paddy. I'm just going to touch on 5 issues. My 1 minute is already started. You know, first of all, we want to congratulate the ANC to invite us to this civic society engagement. This is telling us that when we think business, we need to concentrate on the well-being of the drivers. The GPV, they are far from home, and the issue of the HIV. So this is a platform whereby we need to go back as TASA and then try and open a wing that will be talking to our truck drivers, because there are many on the road. We are representing an industry that is worth more than 585 billion rand. So you can imagine how many employees that we have there. And secondly, the issue of moving trucks from road to rail, it is very important that the ANC must hold each other's hand, because we've already started with the progress of engaging. We have a license. You know, most of the time, you know, when black business come with a proposal, it tends to delay. We don't want to go to the street, Mr. President. We want you to go back and uplift that paper, because it says in simple terms, all truckers in South Africa will convert their trailers, the wagon that we see, it will be converted into a trailer, and then we just hook and haul and distribute all the product up to the SADC region. It's just a matter of uplifting a simple suspension, Mr. President. Last thing is that the issue of opening of the power stations, we don't want people to be pointing fingers on us about the accidents that are happening, you know, the closure of the road, and we want to deal with the issue of the foreigners. So open the power stations, Mr. President. We are the people that went to Pretoria and set it down with renewable energy. But today we are saying, let's relook and find a solution of opening those power stations. This is where we used to feed our communities with coal, but today we are now taking it outside the country. Mr. President, I know you have a solution. I saw the Mr. Electricity, the Minister of Electricity is very vibrant, and I know that we'll soon be getting a solution. I thank you very much. We don't have much to say, but we are saying that we are here and we want you to go back home very safe, ample SG, without being blocked by the trucks. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Madam President, for reassuring me that I can drive down when I live here. Can I thank you very much for your cooperation and participation. And as I said, this has not been a perfect exercise, but every beginning will have its own challenges. We have learned a lot. We need to make time to see how we plan it differently and much more better. And now I'm handing over to the DSG to take us forward. Thank you very much, DSG.
Thank you very much. Comrade Mamuluku, you seated over there. Can she be given a mic? Followed by Comrade Faith Mutambi, who's dealing with the constitutional and legal subcommittee of the NC. She is the convener of the NEC subcommittee. Comrade Kansani.
Thank you very much, Comrade DSG. Greetings to the President, NEC members, all members of the civil society. I think we did hear quite a lot of issues that relate to the economic transformation, the work that we do. Firstly, I think DSG will follow your suit and convene in terms of our work in the economic sector. We are actually having a program of action to engage. Firstly, some of the issues that are coming from various sectors, I've been picking them up. Will reach out and respond. But just to indicate, there are quite an issue that were raised, for example, on the legislation around procurement bill. It's currently before Parliament. We're hoping that the committee can fast track and finish. But because it's a law that requires, it's a section 76, it requires public participation. So we can't move without it being done in terms of how the law requires bills to be dealt with. So that's the first issue. So that is there. In terms of set aside, that's why the procurement bill deals with the set aside in terms of youth empowerment and also women, in some sectors, as Minister of Human Settlements, we do have, for example, 40% set aside for women, 15% for youth, people with disability, 2%, and military veterans. So we are currently implementing, so various implementations are in various areas of process, but we are learning from here at DSG that we will, for example, convene through you a sectoral meeting just on economy, especially for women. We know quite a lot of work has been done. We can be able to explore that. I don't want to take the time, and also, but there's quite a lot that we have done. I think it's a matter of feedback in terms of how far we've gone in implementing quite a number of issues that we've agreed to. For example, around the taxi industry, they would have seen, even at conference, we made a pronouncement around the BRTs. We've started to do the work to be able to resolve around that. On the tracking, as the president of Trucking Association would say, we've already started to prioritize the logistics, paying attention into that, both in terms of logistics around work done by Transnet, and also around what we are doing in the power stations. The whole transition is based on ensuring that we transit in the pace and scale that the country can afford, but making sure that we are inclusive within communities. So, you know, I can go on in terms of these issues. I don't want to take your time, but let me commit to convening this type of conversations, but we might move sector by sector because ours might not be easy to do it broadly like this, like we've done on the energy. And we hope they respond, because we do go out and have meetings, but we just want to assure them that they must reach out as well. We will be able to meet them and respond to their issues. Thanks, Comrade DSG.
Thanks, Comrade Mamuluku. Mutambi.
Thank you so much, Comrade DSG, and greetings to everyone in the house. Yes, indeed, the ANC is the mass-based organization, and we want to appreciate all these profound inputs that you have submitted. And what we can assure you from our side, we've given you notes to write on. This is going to be consolidated, and out of your inputs, we are going to develop a program of action. In essence, this, as somebody has suggested, it must go down to our provinces, to regions, and that's where the dialogue must ensue, so that we then adopt the bottom-up approach than the other way around. I think I can see everyone wants to engage with the ANC. And there was no any other right moment like this for the president setting the tone. And I think us as leaders, we need to cascade it down and make sure that our people are listened to. And what you are pleading is not much. You are not demanding too much. You are saying to us as ANC, you have got the best policies in place, just implement. And I think we've got the message loud and clear, as the ANC will make sure that our own resolution are implemented. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Comrade Faith, and we hope your team will also connect with the Black Lawyers Association, with comrades from Natal, and all other bodies that can be of help in taking the work of the ANC forward. We are here also with the president of the ANC Veterans League, Comrade Prasnuki Zigalala. Siyabonga ukuba khona kwakho. Be careful that lighting akushayi ikhanda. So, comrades, we're going to, as Comrade Faith has indicated, we will pull together the work, and Comrade Phoebe, another member of the NEC, will come in after the president to indicate the way forward on behalf of our team. And without any waste of time, I'm going to invite the president to the podium and request that we all rise as we receive the president on the podium. Remember, we are all live.
Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Thank you. Amandla. That was very weak. Forward with civil society, forward. Thank you very much, Comrade Nomvula, First Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, members of the National Executive Committee, and also Amper SG, leaders of various civil society organizations, religious leaders who are here with us, you are so many and diverse as leaders of our civil society organizations that I will not be able to go through the various names and identities, but I'd like to thank you all for being here and participating in this engagement with the African National Congress, and I'd like you to give yourselves a round of applause for being here. I say so advisedly because a number of you traveled long kilometers to be here at your own expense. Some of you traveled from as far afield as KZN, Eastern Cape, and so forth, and various other provinces in the country, Northwest and so forth. So we really thank you for being here. This is the engagement that the ANC has longed for over a very long time. It was even endorsed and decided upon by the National Executive Committee right soon after we were elected. We knew that a gap had been formed in terms of our inability to engage at a fairly deep and serious level with you as civil society. In fact, as we were planning for this, in many of our minds it conjured up the days of the United Democratic Front. And we said, this is like a UDF come together once again. So we do thank you, and we really, really, with humility, say we are sorry that it has taken quite a while to have a gathering like this. Comrade Nomvula and the other officials, Comrade Mdu and Comrade Phoebe, were informing me that we are going to have provincial ones at the provincial level, and we will have another one like this, and I would like to see it much bigger. Of course, it costs money. In other iterations, particularly, say, for instance, in government, we have had an occasion, and some of you participated, in an engagement, particularly as we were navigating our way through COVID. We were able to have these engagements online, and we had at one stage up to almost 1,000 or 1,500 people online participating, giving their views. So as the ANC, we welcome this opportunity to do it face-to-face. The next one might also be online or whatever, but what I want to say is that we are going to remain engaged with you because we realize that we have allowed a gap, quite a bit of a chasm to develop between ourselves and our organizations, traditional and otherwise. I want to make you draw inspiration from what I think I did mention either January the 8th or so, when I quoted a poem by the German communist playwright and poet, Bertolt Brecht, when he said, and this has resonance and relevance here, some people will wage a struggle for a day. And he says that is good. Some people will wage a struggle for a year, and that is better. Some will wage a struggle for many years, and that is even better. But there are those who will wage the struggle for their entire lives. They are the ones that we cannot do without. Close quotes. Now, gathered here in your various organizations, We recognize that many of you, through your various organizations, you have been waging struggles for the rest of your lives. Some of the organizations have existed in the 80s and some in the 70s. And one of our participants here from NAFCOC, they've been involved since the 60s. They've been involved in the struggle to make the lives of South Africans better forever. And I welcome that, and this is what I really applaud, that amongst us here today are yourselves. And you have, as organs of civil society, on a voluntary basis, you've been engaged in the lives of our people, making the lives of our people better. And I applaud you, and I thank you for that. It is you who Brecht was talking about. Thank you very much. So as we welcome this opportunity, we as the African National Congress, in hearing more or less everything that you are saying, I could find identification with the priorities that we have set. We announced our priorities with the marquee statement that we make every January, which is the January 8th statement. And many of you who have spoken have touched on various aspects of what the National Executive Committee pronounced and what was set out as our priorities. And very briefly, I will set this out, but I do want to focus on many of the things that you articulated here. Our first priority is really aimed at the renewal of the ANC and forging even stronger unity within the African National Congress. That the NEC identified as the key priority, because the renewal of the ANC and the unity of the ANC will lead to the renewal of our nation. Ipso facto, it speaks for itself. When the ANC is disunited, when the ANC is not united, the South African nation is not united and the South African nation is not renewed. So therefore, our important priority is the renewal of the ANC, and that is what we are focusing on. Your coming to this meeting contributes to the renewal of the ANC. Precisely the issues that some of you were putting forward, that go back to the ground, to the grassroots, re-engage with our people, is part of our renewal process. So you are contributing, yes, by being here, by putting your views forward to that renewal process. And that is the priority that we were also given by the 55th conference of the ANC. And of course, a number of you also raised the issue of the second priority. And the second priority is about accelerating the work to deal with our current existential challenge, which is load shedding. A number of you raised it, and Mama here even raised it and said, load shedding is really frustrating us. It's having a negative impact on what you do, either in your businesses, co-ops, or in your NGOs. That is our second priority. And as you will have heard, we've embarked on a number of measures to address the load shedding. And day before yesterday, we had an announcement that the availability factor, electricity availability factor, has now increased in a number of power stations. And this is largely because of the work that we announced in our energy action plan, that we are now going to pay more attention and to focus on this. And to this end, I even appointed a minister of electricity, and that minister is now busy at work. Thirdly, we said that we want to mobilize social partners to increase employment and investment and deepen empowerment and transformation. This is what we are doing now, practically. We want to mobilize all our social partners. And you, as civil society, you play a critical role. And that is why we are very pleased that our engagement is formalized at the NEDLAC level, but it is also spread throughout the country through your organizations and the networks that you have. Our objective is to ensure that we mobilize our social partners with a view of deepening and broadening empowerment and transformation. And many of you have made many suggestions in this regard, which I will touch on in a little while. The fourth one is, of course, based on a number of issues that you raised, to ensure that we improve service delivery in terms of the services that we should deliver to our people, including infrastructure, be it in the rural areas or in the urban areas. That has been identified as a key priority because over time we've seen weakening. And that is why in 2021, one of the reasons why the ANC then dropped in terms of its share of the vote, it was because of service delivery. Our people correctly have raised this issue that we are not getting good services. And for us, it was a wake-up call. And the wake-up call also results in us saying we need to go to the ground and engage more. The fifth one was to strengthen the fight against crime and corruption. A number of you have raised the issue of corruption. A number of people have raised the issue of crime, be it construction mafia crime, and which we will deal with. And the other important priority for us is to build a better Africa and a better world. Better world to spread the word of peace, to spread the word of peace building in the world, and to be involved in conflict resolution processes, which we are involved in a number of places, not only on our continent, but also continuing to say the conflicts that persist around the world must be solved in the way that Nelson Mandela taught us. Nelson Mandela taught us that the only way to resolve conflicts, including the apartheid conflict, by the way, when he wrote to the apartheid rulers, he said, the only way you will end the conflict in our country is for you to sit down with the leadership of the African National Congress. So he taught us that, and that is the word that we are spreading around the world, including on our own continent. And as I listened to the inputs, initially from the panelists and from many of you, the common thread through all this, as far as I could read, is collaboration, engagement, working together, finding solutions, and some of you were even bold enough to say, there is no problem without a solution. Every problem has a solution. And you even went on to say, civil society plays a critical role. It is almost at the center of ensuring that we solve our problems. That is the common thread that I have discerned from everything you were saying. To me, that proves the validity and the credibility of having you participating with us here in this engagement. And I heard very clearly, one of you said we want less talk by ANC officials, less talk by ANC members. We want to engage amongst ourselves and also, yes, with the president. We hear that very clearly because we need, as the ANC, and there are a number of members of the National Executive Committee, as Comrade Nomvula said, and we didn't bring all of them. We need to be hearing these messages that you were beaming. These for us are important messages, and our comrades have taken copious notes because there are things that we now need to act on moving from here. And you spoke about implementation. My brother from the BBC said that economic empowerment really should be the main plank that we look at, and I couldn't agree more. And with number of messages that you put forward, don't think that it drops on deaf ears. You are saying that 40% procurement for women in government procurement must be legislated for. We have declared it, I declared it, I said, we want to see 40% of what we procure in government being made available to women-owned businesses. And we've declared that as a policy, as a directive. Now, and because my sister here spoke so eloquently about the historic impediments that black women have always worked under for more, she said 2 centuries, 3 centuries, my sister, 3 centuries, because apartheid and colonialism, you've got to remember that it started even, okay, slightly before 1652, but more formally when colonialism formally really started. So it's 340 years and plus, where black women were always held to the back. Now we're starting from that deficit point. And that deficit point means that we've got to take extra steps to empower the women of our country. And I was pleased to hear the statistics that many companies, many entities, businesses are started by women. And that is so true. But in the end, when it comes to the funding, the empowerment, the opening up of markets, the enablement, women are always pushed to the back. And that is why we have consciously, as a government, and I have also consciously said, we are going to empower the women of our country. Starting off with the cabinet. The cabinet that we have has 50% women, and that we need to applaud. We've got more deputy ministers who are women than men. And that too just demonstrates the direction in which we are going. Our empowerment of women is not Mickey Mouse, it is serious. And we are going to do it. But we also want them to participate meaningfully, as you correctly said, in the economy of the country. So we say we want them 40% procurement to be in the hands of women. And now we've got to work hard and harder. One, to make sure that the policy is embraced in government in real terms, not only to be written about, in real terms. And you are now, BBC, saying legislate for it. It's a good suggestion, and we will look at how we make that happen, so that it goes just beyond being policy. It must now go beyond being the law that everyone must adhere to. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that, and I applaud you for that. And you say that we must be willing to take the risk to empower women and to empower young people. That's a very good thought and suggestion, because as a developmental state, and only one of you mentioned developmental, and I want to stress that we characterize ourselves as a developmental state. And at times we've been rather hesitant to be more developmental. We've tended to hold back and not really been forthright. We therefore need to be more forthright and make ourselves a fully fledged developmental state. And as a developmental state, there are risks that we've got to take to empower women and to empower young people. We need to be bolder than we are now. And yes, procurement gives us a very good lever to be able to do so. And of course, procurement gives us the lever to empower black people who were for almost 300 years held back. But when we talk about women, and one of the ladies raised that, yes, we are talking about women on a non-racial basis. We say, yes, women of our country, because women were oppressed, even under apartheid. My sister there in a yellow shirt spoke out on this. Even women during apartheid, white and otherwise, were always held back. So we want to see the empowerment of women. Of course, the majority of women in our country are black. You also spoke about criminality in the construction sector, that we need to tackle this. And I'm glad that the BBC Black Business Council is focusing on this, and that needs to be done. My brother from Kosatu, and I will touch on the key issue that they raised. He says there needs to be collaboration. Collaboration is important in tackling our many, many, many challenges and problems. And he becomes focused on ensuring that we do not weaken the collective bargaining system and process in our country. The working people in our country want to resolve their problems through negotiation. And of course, this is a hard-won right. This right was fought for and won, and we should never weaken it. And I agree entirely, they had a complaint that government was weakening the collective bargaining process, and I do want to believe now that we have solved that. The strike was settled, and now they seem to be happy. I see a few smiles on his mouth from time to time. My brother Soli from civil society, it raises an important issue that sometimes we sign agreements and many people don't really understand what those agreements are, and then those agreements are used to the detriment of civil society organizations in our country, and some of those agreements are then used to undermine our civil society. And he says we need to be alert that there may well be other countries that want to weaken civil society and use civil society even against our government and against our people as well. And we have already seen that. For instance, Minister Motsoaledi speaks about how an organization, an American civil society organization, went to our courts and got our courts to rule that we should admit people from another country, and even without those people having set foot in South Africa. So these civil societies are being used in that way. Sister from the Youth Council also speaks very strongly about education and the curriculum. Absolutely right. Parts of our curriculum in our education still has elements of colonialism and elements of apartheid past. We need to reconstruct the curriculum so that the curriculum responds to the challenges that we face as a country and the challenges that we face as a continent, because we need to reconstruct it that it does respond and addresses those. The researcher, my sister, Xolelwa, talks about the historical context of civil society. And I thought that was very refreshing, because that made us look back. Because as civil society, we've got a very rich history of collaboration. This country is where we are today because civil society, your organizations, as I was saying, have helped to shape and build this country. Just to give you a good example, the constitution that we have today is the product of the engagement that we all had as South Africans. And sometimes when we look at our constitution, we think that, some parts of the constitution were imported from somewhere. They were not. This is a constitution that we crafted. And it was one of those processes where engagement was deep and rich. So we have a history. The United Democratic Front was almost the apex of our struggle as the ANC was still banned, but it was inspired by the African National Congress, and it was actually the ANC that said, go ahead and form a united front so that it can unite our people. So we have a historical context. Of course, civil society organizations are not homogeneous, but we have converged in the past on a number of issues. That is why I've said even in Parliament that social compacting is a South African feature. We compact, we get together, we talk about things and build compacts and agreements. We had wanted to have a comprehensive social compact, and we had put together a timeline, and we were not able to reach that timeline. But what we have seen over time, as my sister Olelwa was saying, what we have seen is that we have been able to reach a number of compacts. The one that stands out, which has had to address a huge problem, a pandemic as I characterized it, was gender-based violence. The women of our country marched to the union buildings, and I was already at home, and I was told that the women say they are not going to leave, they are going to sleep at the union buildings, and they are going to wait for me. And people in my office said, "Oh, President, the night has set." And so I said, "No, I have to go." And I went, and that was the beginning of the process of reaching the compact that we had around gender-based violence. And the strategic plan process then germinated or consolidated around that. So we've reached agreements and social compacts on a number of issues, even on the national minimum wage, which was in NEDLEC, and a number of you participated in that for the first time in the history of our country, we emerged with a national minimum wage. It was due to social compacting. And so we've done that even on health matters. Even as our health situation is a bit challenging, we have been able to do that. And NEDLEC has been the main reservoir of our compacting process. Yes, sometimes summits may not be that representative, but through NEDLEC, I think we've been able to achieve what many countries have not been able to achieve. When we talk about NEDLEC to other nations, they are actually amazed that we have a structure like that, and where the state is able to sit down, or rather the government, to sit down with various organizations. I'm often criticized that, "Oh, you consult too much. Oh, you spend too much time consulting." And it is a feature of our life as South Africans, because when we do reach a compact, we then have a sense that we've all bought into. Recently, when I decided that we should have a Minister of Electricity, I hadn't even briefed my colleagues and comrades, even in the ANC. All of them said, "The President has taken a decision on his own." And I said, "Okay, sometimes you say I consult too much. When I take a decision, you complain." I just said, that is your problem. Sometimes I will not consult, and sometimes I will consult. And I said, you better get used to it. This is how I'm rolling now. This is how I am going forward. So some of them issued statements. COSATU issued a statement, the party. When I met them, I said, "So what is this, comrade? What is this?" They said, "Oh, now we understand, comrade." So sometimes I will not consult. As your president, sometimes I will consult. But consultation is part of our DNA, and that is how we should move forward. And there have been a number of inputs on gender-based violence, which I must say I've really appreciated. I've appreciated the focus on gender-based violence, because it continues to be one of the overriding problems we have. And there's been reference on the LGBTQI+ community, but also we need to focus on albinism. Albinism, the attacks and the killings of people who live with albinism are completely unacceptable. And as South Africans, through our NGOs, we must rise against the attacks against people with albinism. And also, people with disabilities. I'm pleased that this was also raised here. We recently had a consultation forum with people living with disabilities. We reached really good conclusions and decisions on how government can improve the lives of people living with disabilities. So this has arisen here, and we are going to make sure that we take this forward. Some of you remembered how, some 2-3 years ago, I think 4 years ago, we used to see people coming along, walking with me. I still walk. I still do my walks, but people have been complaining. They say, no, President, you shouldn't walk alone. You should walk with us. So I'm going to restart. Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture is the one who has raised it with me. Zizi Kodwa says he wants to start walking with me. And I said to him, 10 kilometers a time. When I go out for a walk, it's 10 kilometers. Sometimes it goes up to 26 kilometers. He says, okay. But that's what I said. So those who will start. A doctor, I didn't catch your name. You mentioned we need to deal with mental health issues. This was really sharply raised during our meeting with the people with disability sector. And we need to have more resources deployed to address the challenge of people who live who suffer from mental health. And we can address this because when people have mental health issues, they really become so depressed, and the poverty that they live under makes things worse as well. And then one of you said the clinics are not safe. The issue of safety, and we addressed it. The Minister of Police was there as well in our meeting. We addressed it and said we need to ensure that the police are ever more present and visible, because that is why we are employing more and more police. But at the same time, we need to be paying attention to the employment of nurses, as this was also raised. Ki Tumetsi said we need economic justice, and she said we need to get the private sector should fund social movements. We've got 400,000 civil society organizations, and they need to be funded. We've come up with a proposal, one of you as well added, that we need the private sector, yes, to start helping to fund civil society organizations, and I couldn't agree more. And we should have more social workers employed. Yes, we agree that many social workers in our country, having qualified, are not finding employment. It is a matter that we are addressing, and I'm also focusing on it. Mfundisi, my brother here, said we need to receive the report on men. They've been drafting this report, and I've been waiting for it, on the role of men in gender-based violence. And I have found that when we also focus on men, of course we've got to focus on the terrible situation that women find themselves in when it comes to gender-based violence and femicide, because it is a pandemic, but we also have to focus on men. One university vice chancellor told me that they have gone through a spate of rapes and even murders of young women at their university. One of the things that they started focusing on is to have men's dialogues. And he said, President, when we've held a few men's dialogues, and we've seen the incidence of gender-based violence actually going down, to a point where women were now saying, Vice Chancellor, we can now move around on the university campus premises feeling much safer. Now, it is important for us as a nation to focus on men as well. We need to have those men's dialogues, and I'm pleased that I will be getting this report. And Tulani Chifuta says, when we say we want to address young people's challenges when it comes to substance abuse, we must not just be preaching at them. We must give them alternatives to move them away from drug usage. Alternatives need to be put forward. That's one of the things that I've said to the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. I've said we now must focus on school sports. Our schools do not have sporting facilities. Of course, it's an infrastructure challenge, but we now need to raise the issue of sports amongst young people even more, so that as we wean them away from substance abuse, we must be able to offer them another choice, which is precisely what we should do. My sister Gumede, yes, she said, establish a fund to focus on black women. And we are working on putting together, yes, a fund. I even announced it during SONA. I said we want to put together a fund which will be focusing on the small medium enterprise and, by the way, cooperatives, as it was mentioned here. And we've gone to the private sector and we say we want you to contribute. So setting up a fund does take a bit of time. Another country on the continent has set up a really good fund to focus on the small medium enterprise sector. So we are going to start sort of moving on this one, because it is when you fund women-owned businesses, it is when you focus on women and empowering them more that you are able to create more opportunities. When we became chair of the African Union, that was before COVID, one of our objectives was to set up a fund to empower women on our continent. But COVID came and we focused more on COVID than on that, but we still must go back there. I like the theme from the Black Business Council in the second iteration when they responded to the issues. And I like this theme. They say, we must solve our own problems, but we must also implement our policies, and we must appoint competent people, particularly at the municipality level, to lead our local economic development plans. I could not agree more. And they say, don't use that as a dumping ground to dump useless people, people who don't know what they are doing. And this is precisely what the ANC is focusing on, so that we can have people who are good at what they do, people who are well qualified, people who will be able to address the challenges that our people are facing. Katia mentioned mental health, so I've covered that. And then President of NIHAU mentioned the issue of the NHI, and we couldn't agree more. One of you also mentioned it. The National Health Insurance is an important policy that the African National Congress has taken. And you were asking, where is it? It is navigating its way through the chambers of our parliament, and it is a bill that will soon be presented to the president once it has gone through that process for signature. It has taken a long time. And of course, the other problem we have, and we're having to deal with, is that our legislative process tends to take a rather long time. And when you want to pass a law, you are looking at almost 3 years before the law is properly passed. So we are going to be reviewing that. I know other countries are doing exactly the same. Yes, the issue of expropriation of land without compensation has come up. You will have seen that the expropriation bill will soon be on the president's desk. Actually, it's working its way there. It's been debated and so forth. I was asked a question by one of the parties in parliament about the Expropriation Act. The Expropriation Act, like any other country, every country in the world has an Expropriation Act to enable government to be able to expropriate land, and in some cases there's payment of compensation, in some cases there is no payment of compensation. That is what nearly all governments have, because a government does need to have an instrument to be able to take land for public purposes and public use, to move the country forward. It's either economically, service delivery, and so forth. For instance, if we need to build an electricity line across somebody's land, government is allowed in terms of the law to expropriate the land and build infrastructure that will be used for public purposes. So, Expropriation Act is going to address a number of purposes for the interests of our people. There's a complaint that NGOs are being destabilized by officials, and I am not aware of this, but I suppose you, when you interact with our officials, sometimes there may be a sense that they're being destabilized. What I can say is that there is no policy in government to destabilize NGOs. In fact, NGOs play an important role in our architecture as government. Last year, we held a civil society summit, and many of you would have been there. I certainly know that Tulani was there, played a big role, and a few of you. So we do not have a policy that destabilizes or destroys NGOs. What we do have, however, is a big challenge. There are 400,000 NGOs, and a number of NGOs are funded by government, but not all NGOs, in the end, get funding from government. Of course, we would love to do that, but the fiscal challenges that we have are such that we will not be able to do that to good effect. So, healthy economy requires a healthy population. One of you said that, couldn't agree more. Thabang spoke, and this is when the question was asked, the future that we want. And I'm glad that almost 36 of you spoke on this issue. And I'll run very quickly through some of the proposals you made. You started off by saying a healthy economy requires a healthy population. We need to focus on health. And health is one of the key areas where we are pouring money in. The first one that takes much of our budget is education. Education is funded in a very big way. The next one is health. The next one is our debt payments. And those three are the ones that chew up quite a lot of money. And of course, under health and education, that's where we pay salaries. So salaries is a big spend, but it falls also under a number of the other departments. Thabang said the Table Tennis Association is going to be hosting the World Tennis. And what he was really saying in terms of the future we want is that we should applaud them, because they are going to be hosting the World Tennis Association. The last one was held in 1939 in Egypt. So this is a great achievement for South Africa, that we are going to be on the world map, and we are going to be hosting the World Tennis event. This is great for our country. So it's, I mean, really, you're weak in your applause. It's almost like 2010, the World Cup of football. So it is important. And someone said we need a proper expression of the non-racial character of the ANC. And we need to be focusing on that, because, yes, this is where we've been a bit weak. The non-racial character of the ANC has been weakening, and I have said so on a number of occasions. Now, we've got a number of people in our organization including white young people who've come to the fore, who've said, we have joined the ANC, we love the ANC, we love what the ANC stands for, the way that it embraces everyone. And they have said, we want to lift up the non-racial character of the ANC. It needs to be seen by all and sundry that the ANC is the home of all South Africans. Every South African, be they white, be they Indian, be they so-called colored, be they African, men and women, they must feel that the ANC is their home. And that is what the ANC has always been. In the past, we have said the ANC is the parliament of our people. But in the end, the ANC is the home of all South Africans. And they want to launch a desk that will focus on this. I have said that we're going to discuss this matter, as I promised them, and we will finalize it DSG. We must make sure that this matter is finalized so that we can give real serious attention to the non-racial character of the ANC and begin to mobilize all South Africans to be part of this glorious movement. And my sister Pillay said we need to focus on skills development and we must capacitate our government. That is important because she said we are a diverse group, and she, being of Indian origin, says we would like as many Indian people to be part of the ANC as they've always been, and we welcome that. So that is the non-racial character of the ANC being played out. And skills development has been mentioned by many of you, and the role of NGOs in the development of skills. But you also mentioned that it is important that as we develop these skills, we must also work at that local level. Mbasa said that he represents an organization of more than 1 million people, and he said implementation is important. That's the one who said, where are we with NHI? Tumelo said, we must meet more often like this to discuss solutions. And she said, apart from meeting more often, which I addressed right at the beginning, because for us this is an important forum. And the one thing that I initially said to my comrades, because they said, President, we want you to address the people. I said, no. I don't want to do that. I want our people in NGOs must speak. They must tell us their own issues, and then we will then respond. And this is precisely what we're doing. When we next engage, we will have more time so that you are able to articulate the issues that are important to you. And we will take copious notes so that we are able to address the issues that you raise. Tumele said, we must fund the fight. We must make sure that when it comes to the empowerment of women, we must fund the fight, meaning that NGOs must be funded. My sister here spoke about load shedding, and she did articulate a view, and I've addressed that. There was a gentleman who's wearing a tie, looking very, very handsome. But I got to hear that he comes from Scientology. And I wrote here that he's Mr. Empowerment of Communities, because Scientology, and the lady sitting next to me there comes from Scientology. She tells me that they work on empowerment of communities, like he stood up and said. And this is what we really want to be getting engaged with you, that yes, all of us have work to do. And the BBC was very clear. We must all engage in finding solutions. And we must get involved in service delivery. And there was a pastor who spoke about, we must educate people about voting. And he is so right. What we are finding, and in a number of countries as well, we are finding that a number of people don't really know how to vote. We did a massive voter education process in 1994, prior to those elections. And over time, we have gone down. We have not been paying a lot of attention on voter education. So we now need to do so. And organizing department, SGO, and the elections department now have to focus on this ahead of the 2024 elections. And thank you very much for raising this. We now need to embark on voter education. I was in KZN over the weekend, and many volunteers were out there in the meeting that we held, and we said they must now make sure that they go from house to house to find out whether people are registered. So it should be voter registration and voter education. Issue of shortage of nurses we've spoken about, and we must utilize our resources properly. My brother Machidi from Nadel, he raised a very important point as well. And he said, we've had a historic relationship with the ANC, and over time that has weakened because we're no longer engaging. And not only Nadel, but a number of organizations want that engagement. But he also says we must also focus on monitoring and evaluation. Deputy Secretary General, the second one, is going to be focusing on monitoring and evaluation. And Machidi says focus on inputs and outputs. Lekalakala says funding is not a problem. Stop working in silos. This is precisely what our district development model is seeking to address. That we must be an engaged government, a joined up government, and stop working in silos. I keep on sending ministers back, and I say, you cannot be coming forward and just to focus on your issues. Where are the others who work with you in this area? You need to be working together. Menzi says cooperatives are serious. Yes, and even my brother, Mr. Co-ops, has raised the issue. Cooperatives are important. It can be worker co-ops, it can be farming co-ops, and so forth. We have now started the process of focusing on co-ops, but we need to do more. And civil society, as my brother, Mr. Co-op, was saying, is well represented in NEDLAC. Musa Chabalala, I think I had that name, from Orange Farm. He says, the future we want is that education should be like an AK-47. Don't know what he meant. Maybe he was one of those. But he also says it must be people-driven. Another brother from Soweto, he says, I'm Soweto born. I didn't hear his name. He says he's an entrepreneur and he works in the arts. And the arts must participate in all the endeavors. And this is precisely what our new minister is also going to be doing. The creative industry, one of my sisters also raised this. So we are going to focus on this. My sister, Comrade Fryer, then raises the issue. The one issue that she's been big on is basic income grant. She's big on that. She talks about BIG, all the time. And we are working. The ANC, when we introduced the 350, we introduced it at a very challenging time in the history of our country. And we introduced it in the wake of saying workers who are employed are facing challenges because the factories and the companies that work for had closed. And so therefore UIF needed to come in. I then said, but there are people who are unemployed, who were running either their spaza shops, who were running whatever. What about them? I then said, let us address those people. The budgetary constraints obviously kicked in, and we could only do a 350. But when we introduced it initially, it was 6 million people who came forward, and then it grew to 11 million. And it became a big challenge. I continued to say we cannot drop these people because some of them really rely on this money. And yes, we're becoming a big welfare state, but we need to demonstrate as the ANC government that we care for our people, that we are a caring government, and even if we will give them that little bit of money, it does help. Of course, ordinarily we should be, taking it to another level, to 600 and something, and in the end, we need to embrace the basic income grant. So we are in the process of talking about it, workshopping it, and comrades like my sister Fryer is involved in those discussions. And those discussions will continue, and we need to be focusing on a whole number of issues and the impact that a basic income grant will do to the lives of our people, and in the end, the economy as well, as they often say to me. One of my sisters spoke about the interns, that yes, part of the whole presidential employment stimulus was to bring in interns. We succeeded in bringing in almost 800,000 young people, slightly older people, particularly in schools and in a number of other sort of endeavors or entities. And they have helped a great deal. But because of budgetary constraints, the number has had to be reduced, but we have seen the work they've done and the own experience that they have earned. So that to us has been a really great opportunity for them. But she also says we must implement the district development model, because it is through that we will be able to win. One of the participants spoke about construction, and he wants a one-on-one. He says, President, I want a one-on-one with you, and we will solve all these problems. Wow, come on, bring it on. Come and have a one-on-one with me, because you are the person I want so that we can solve all these construction mafia problems and so forth. But more seriously, yes, my brother, I'm willing and prepared to have a one-on-one with you. They will arrange it. My sister Jane speaks about poverty and lack of service delivery, and she wants the police to intervene in areas where they are not often seen. So that too, I agree to. And one of my speakers here said basic education, and we need to focus more on basic education. I must say, basic education generally gets the lion's share of our budget, both at basic education level as well as higher education level. Basic education, we've got like 12 million young children who go to our schools. Every day of the week, 9 million of them get food that is delivered by our government. When I went to school in Soweto, I was never fed by the government, and many of us who went to school then. The government is demonstrating its total commitment on education, and of course we've got to keep improving the delivery of education in our schools. That we will continue to do. But our commitment to education, both at basic school level and at university level, is full and complete. And we will continue to do so. As I run away from the sun, we will continue to do so. At higher education level, 800,000 young people get NSFAS funding. We have deployed billions of rands to help our children, our young people, to get well funded. Of course, there are still challenges, but we have raised this from a low level to a much higher level, and we will continue to do so. I just want to assure you that our commitment to improving education is total, and we will continue funding education in the biggest of ways. That you can be assured of. And of course, another challenge that we face, of course, is infrastructure in our education facilities. There was one Director General from Limpopo who said, improving infrastructure facilities in Limpopo alone in our schools, if we go at this rate, it will take us 75 years. That is how big the challenge is. And we are now saying we need to come up with innovative ways, new ways of funding our infrastructure. Because what we inherited from apartheid misrule, you want to shift this, what we inherited from, yes, thank you. What we inherited from apartheid misrule was so horrendous that it will, yes, literally take us those many years. But talking to the Minister of Finance, we are saying, let us come with new, clever ways of funding infrastructure in our schools, building new classrooms, building new schools, and forward sort of funding those facilities. Because if we go just continue at this rate in all our provinces, it will take us literally 50 years before we improve the infrastructure in our schools, particularly in rural areas and townships. So we are looking at that so that we avoid this horrible incident of children falling into pit latrines and dying and drowning. Because that, for us, is a real shame. And it's a tragedy that we need to work towards eliminating altogether. NAFCOC said we want to rekindle old partnerships because we must continue getting close to business. Andy spoke about people with disabilities. They need assistance. I spoke about that. Linda Elwa spoke about digital technologies. Now, the former Minister of Digital Communications and Digital Technologies had focused, and Minister Gungubele is going to focus on this, to make sure that we ensure that there is connectivity throughout the country, and they have started identifying how best we can do that, working together with our various digital companies. So I liked this input from my brother who spoke about Peace Community Foundation, that we should build peaceful infrastructure. And peace building, he said, is important. And more importantly, he said, we must teach young people to embrace peaceful ways of solving problems. This, for me, is quite important, and we should move in that direction. Sia from OR Tambo, and I want to thank you for traveling all the way from the Eastern Cape to be here. You want robust engagement at local government as well, and you are the one who said engagement must not be dominated by, yes, ANC officials, and in a way we've made sure that it isn't here, and that you should be the ones who speak more pointedly with us. Santako wants the resolutions to be implemented, and yes, that will be so. Joy said the 54th resolution where the ANC must bring back the cultural desk must be implemented. Deputy SG, you have heard yourself. We need to work on that, and the creative industry should be focused on. The churches need support, and we agree with that. The churches have been saying to us they don't have sites to build their churches. When they go to local government, they are not given much help. And the churches also said, we have not fully acknowledged the role they played during COVID, because they played an important role during COVID. And there are about 300,000 churches in our country, and they said, we are one sector that was not even financially assisted. I agreed. I said, yes, we didn't find a way of being able to do it because there are so many. In the end, we also tried to assist members of Santako, and we found that there are so many, we couldn't find a very clever way of being able to do so. But it does not mean that the willingness was not there. but we are going to have an opportunity to meet with our faith-based organizations and really thank them for the role that they played during this whole process. Ubaba Matlangu from Contralesa, they want the Department of Land Reform to assist with development in the rural areas. Now, I had a meeting yesterday with the House of Traditional Leaders and Khoisan leadership. We agreed that the work that has been done by the Deputy President, former Deputy President Mabuza, will be carried on by Deputy President Mashatile to look at the land reform process. We have made a lot of progress. We are now almost at the finishing line. A paper is going to be brought to Cabinet, and we will be able to address this issue of land reform in the areas where our traditional leaders give leadership. But the issue of development in the rural areas is for us an important issue, and we've embarked on and are embarking on a number of projects. For instance, some of our catalytic projects, for instance, like rural bridges. The rural bridges that we are going to build are in the rural areas to help our rural people to be able to do business and to be able to travel easily. We are going to build a number of bridges, and Minister Sihle Zikalala is going to be working on that. We are also going to embark on a mega project, which is the building of the Umzimvubu Dam. This dam has been under discussion for more than 20-something years. And now we are going to make sure that it is actually started. There are 2 dams in that whole water system. We are going to start the process of developing that. And that, together with a number of other projects that we are going to embark upon in the rural areas, just goes to show that, yes, we will focus on the areas where 30% of our population stay. Because 30% of South Africans now live in the rural areas. The other almost 60-something% has moved to the urban areas. We therefore need to develop our rural areas so that more and more people are able to go back to the rural areas or stay there where there will be economic activity. My sister, speaking on behalf of this industry that is 585 billion rand big, has put together their very important proposal. And I think I read in between the lines, they're going to stop blocking the highways. They're going to stop blocking the ways for all of us so that we can travel nicely. And they will open the roads. They also want us to open power stations so that they can deal with the transportation of coal through the rail as well, 20%. And that is something that represents progress that we can talk to them on. And I really appreciate that. And thank you very much for being the last speaker. So I'd like to end and conclude, because she was the last speaker. There were 39 people who spoke, and there were the panelists who also spoke. I think this has been a really good engagement, a meaningful engagement. Many of you have raised issues, and I know that many more wanted to raise issues. As Deputy Secretary General, as well as Comrade Nduli said, we will do this again. We want to thank you and honor you for being here, for being part of this engagement. For us as the African National Congress, this is deeply meaningful, and we thank you because you've been able to give us your messages, and it has not been a one-way process where the ANC has been talking at you. You have been putting forward your views, and what we have done is to agree with you that the issues that you have raised are very much in line with the priorities that were identified by the ANC National Executive Committee. So I thank you for being here, and like to say, please come back again when we will have a more meaningful engagement. Thank you very much. Forward with civil society, forward. Amandla. Thank you very much.
Copious notes. Thank you very much.
I did take the notes.
So elated. Viva President Ramaphosa, viva! Viva President Ramaphosa, viva! Ayihole ANC, ayihole. Unite ANC, unite. Renew ANC, renew. Thank you very much. Please be seated, Comrade Phoebe.
Comrade President, Program Director, I've got a very easy task. I know I'm standing between your good self and lunch, a very late lunch, and I'm just going to deal with the way forward and the vote of thanks. Firstly, to say that there are forms on the table. If you may kindly fill it in and give it to the, we will collect the forms. You don't have to put down your name, we will collect them. The young people have also said to us that filling in forms, Comrade President, is old school. So we will also do an online survey for you and we'll distribute it, unlike us old guard who have to use our pens and paper. Secondly, we have a very able team of drafters who will compile a report, all of the issues that have been raised, so that by the time that we come to the next one, we don't raise issues as if this is the first time. We will come back to you and say that on this issue, this is how far we are and this is the progress that we've made. A number of you have raised the fact that we need to look at building social compacts, having these consultations from the ground up. And Comrade DSG and Comrade President, what we're suggesting with Comrade Kusela is that we should also have all these sectoral civil society engagements starting at a regional level, so that in every one of the 54 districts and metros we have this engagement, so that we can be practical. We don't talk in general about potholes or electricity, but we talk about how it affects the district. And then we will go to provincial level. So as the ANC, we will organize that. Already 2 weeks ago, the NEC went to all 54 regions. It's not something that we can't do, and we will be able to do that. In addition to that, NEC committees also have the task to engage with the sectors in their areas. So social transformation, peace and stability, economic transformation, legal, etc. We will share the contact details of the NEC committees on our website. So reach out to these committees, but these committees will also organize these sectoral engagements. There have been specific issues that's been raised by the truckers, the taxis, issues of children, people with disabilities, and we will ensure that those issues are being taken forward in the sectoral engagements. We will, as a follow-up, have one in the next quarter so that we can then, as I say, report back to you what we've done on all of these issues, and you can also report back to us how you're taking those matters forward. One of the voices that we didn't really hear, and I know that they're present here, are present here, are voices from the diaspora in South Africa. And we hope that that's a sector that when we have our next engagement, we can also hear from you what exactly are the issues that we face. Now to the vote of thanks, a special thank to the President that have pushed for this event, the Deputy Secretary and other members of the NEC, but particularly civil society organizations. We were just overwhelmed by the response that we got. And as Comrade DSG said this morning, we even have walk-ins where people said, but you know, we are from civil society and this is an engagement, we want to be there. There are even some that are complaining on social media that they haven't been invited. So we will continue to reach out. And if you haven't been invited, we do apologize. And with the next round, the national ones, the sectoral ones in the districts, we will make sure that we do that. I want to conclude and say thank you to our service providers, to the alliance partners, NEC members, the leagues, and everybody that's here, but also particularly to our security cluster, as well as the media and our staff, who has worked very hard over the last couple of days to make sure that this event is a success. Let me conclude by a woman that I really admire, and she's the Prime Minister of Barbados, part of the African diaspora, Prime Minister Mia Mottley. And she said, Comrade President, that if we can find the world to send people to the moon and solve male baldness, then surely we can solve simple problems like getting our people to eat and solving poverty. And I think that this is the challenge that's before all of us. Our problems are not that very difficult to get everybody to eat. There's enough food in the world to address poverty. And if we can send persons to the moon, then surely we can do that. Thank you very much. And you are now invited to lunch. It will be served here. And there's also going to be an opportunity while we're having our lunch for a photo opportunity with the President. And we once again thank you very much for being here and for making those contributions. Until we meet again, thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am so sorry. Just before you go off to lunch, we are going to have to release the President. So I wanted to request that as quickly as possible, we finalize the photo op. So I'd like to invite Comrade President, the DSG, Comrade Steve, Comrade JP, the President of the Truckers Association, as well as NAFCOC, to take their seats. Then I'd like to request the rest of us, comrades, per row like Comrade Mdu had done. If we could please just line up for the photo op, and then afterwards you are free to go to lunch. Thank you so very much. I'll start with these tables over here. On the Mfundisi. Yeah, you sit here. Sorry, my love, can we clear this part? Sorry. Comrade Steve, awuhlale la.
We needed to have kicked the panelists first.
I tried. Sorry, guys. Sorry. If you could please go to the back. Yeah, it's the President who's sitting here. Okay, I'll keep changing the panelists. Advocate Gumed. Hello. Advocate Gumed. Alungena ngapha yasisi. Hlala pha kwesasi.
Order, others will come back.
And we have one photo session.
Yeah. Comrades, I promise we will get to everybody. Let's just take the first round as soon as you've taken your picture. I get it, we all want to look nice and not be cluttered in the picture. Thank you. Where are the camera people? Can the camera people just come in front, please, and we make space for them?